I never in a million years thought this one thing would change my life. And it was my food, my nutrition. So I have a background as a mental health counselor. I do spiritual coaching, and I've been going through my own journey, of course, for my whole life, but particularly the last 5 to 10 years. And I was focused on everything up here in my spiritual kind of connection with myself. And I had never really considered that food would be the thing that was going to make all the difference in how I felt about myself. And the thing is that I didn't think I was eating horribly, and I still don't think that I was. But I was for most of my life, definitely as an adult. I never had tons of energy. I didn't, most of the time, didn't feel terrible, but I didn't feel like I had enough energy that I could sustain through like different activities. I would go on a hike and I'd have to bring an energy bar. And after the first 15 minutes in, I'm like kind of shaky and needing to eat. And about 3 months ago, a friend of mine who I'd reconnected with, hadn't talked to since we were young, told me that she was doing a certain type of diet and she had tons of energy. And she named it as the carnivore diet. And didn't tell me a lot of details because I didn't even ask a lot of questions. I thought it was kind of odd. And when I briefly looked it up, it was like, oh, carnivore, they just eat meat. And there's different versions of how people do that. And I didn't really think much of it. But I thought, oh, that sounds kind of nice to have that level of energy. So a little bit more time goes by and I mow the lawn and I get done and I'm all shaky. And it's like an hour of work. I'm in this yard and it's pretty flat, right? And so something in me was like, you know what? I need to look into more about what's going on in my body. And I am someone who tunes into their body and I notice how it feels and I'm trying to be with my feelings and my emotions. But when it came to really looking at what it takes to support our body, that was just a new thing for me. So I went down the rabbit hole and I did start looking at the carnivore diet, what it was about. And as I did the research, finding out, and when I say research, from specialists in carnivore, doctors that are treating patients and they're seeing evidence of how their patients are doing, as well as reading hundreds and hundreds of comments of people that are commenting, particularly in like YouTube videos. They're talking about their own experiences and where they were, how they're feeling now, and all those kinds of things. I also started to listen to podcasts and interviews with nutritionists. My osteopathic physician, who she does homesteading and she believes in like, pure foods and things like that, um, headed, pointed me in the direction of some different teachings to listen to. So as I'm listening, what I'm hearing from all these different sources is that we need a lot of a lot of protein and fat in our diet to support our brain, um, balance of hormones, and all the things that our body needs at the foundation, the building blocks. And then when I looked at how much protein I was eating and things like that, it was very low. So one day I ate a breakfast that was full of, and it was all animal fats and proteins. And that's still what I'm doing. And I already was doing some of that. I just upped it basically. And I lowered my carbohydrate intake, which I wasn't having a lot, but like I kind of just didn't have the toast that day with my breakfast. And I did like 30 to 35 grams of like protein and some fat with my breakfast, got really full but not stuffed. And that was a day where I mowed the lawn and I got done. I had no depletion in my energy throughout the whole day. I didn't even have to eat. Normally, I would have to eat every like 2.5 to 3 hours. I would start to get hungry, and I was eating smaller portions, so I had to eat more often. And I was always like, okay, what am I going to eat? If I want to go out and do something, I got to eat before I go because midway I'm going to get hungry. And honestly, I got really, really tired of trying to figure out what to eat because I was also trying to eat healthy. But I would grab things like snacking. I find it really difficult, snacking wise, to eat healthy. And I already knew that you really should never just eat carbs or sugar by itself, that it's a good idea to have some protein. But now I know lots more fat. So in the form of like, you know, butter, and I'm doing tallow and I was using butter, but I was using a lot more of the olive oils and avocado oil. And not that those are bad, but just learning how much cholesterol the body needs, and that how much more beneficial and it's so much easier to get what you need from eating the animal based um, items. And so I was already doing some of it. I just upped it. And I'm just kind of blown away because the mental clarity, the increase in energy, my level of self confidence, you just, when you're not depleted and tired and walking around having difficulty focusing, the whole world can look so much different. And this is such a big deal relating for me because I work with people who are struggling with their mental and emotional well being, and I'm guiding them to connect with their like higher self and their spirituality. And then now I feel like I need to bring in the consideration about what are we eating. And I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a physician, so I'm not telling people what to eat. I'm sharing my experience and I'm referencing other sources. And we all can share our own experiences, and it's really nice when we do because it helps all of us. I have benefited so much from people sharing their experience. And there are just things I never would have known. And it can be a really big shift when you shift your lifestyle to stop eating certain foods that you're used to eating. So for me now, I mean, some things are simpler. I'm no longer really needing to look up and get a lot of ingredients or recipes. So it's just so simple. I'm just eating a lot of meat and eggs, and I am doing some cheese. I do get bored easily, so I'm looking up different ideas, eating lots of eggs, and I'm feeling better than I ever have in my entire life. There are things that are changing. Like the first 4 weeks, I lost about 10 pounds water weight. It's a lot of water weight. And I'm just really looking forward to my body continuing to get healthy. I don't think I've ever been truly, fully healthy and nourished. And I thought I was. And we don't know what we don't know. But I wanted to make this video to just really introduce this into my content and really have some helpful conversations and mentor people who are going through the same thing. I am 58. I went through menopause years ago. I had a hysterectomy. But for women, even younger women, this is something I really wish I would have known. I had a lot of difficulty when I was younger. My periods were really rough. And I hear this in women a lot. Just our mood, our energy levels, our stress, our anxiety. I'm now kind of rethinking or wondering how much of anxiety isn't primarily mostly about like unprocessed trauma, like I'm trained to help people with, how much of it is related to self doubt. We all have some of that. Just really hearing people who are doing carnivore or a very close version, like I guess some people call it like ketovore, like really, really low carbs. And either way, what I'm really talking about is the proper amount for the person's individual body of protein and fat so that our cells can do what they need to do and help us function at our absolute optimal level. And what I would say now that I really believe is optimal is not getting tired mid afternoon, not having a crash in the afternoon, not needing a pick me up, getting better sleep. I am now starting to sleep better. I struggled for like 15 to 20 years of difficulty with sleep. And more recently, what I switched is really making sure I'm getting more of my fat intake, especially like later in the day. Um, it's funny because the carnivore people, they're like, oh, just eat a stick of butter. I just am not drawn to that, but I can take a tablespoon or two and put it on like a small little cracker. Because I'm trying not to do a lot of carbs. And I'm just kind of testing things out. I just kind of did an elimination diet, which is often what people are trying. And then you can introduce back in things that seem to work for you. And the other piece about this is intuitive. Like, let your intuition guide you. Like, what feels good? What sounds good? Um, it's fascinating when we start to tune in and opening up and becoming aware. The way we're living when it doesn't feel optimal, that it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It's become the norm. And I certainly have a lot of people I know who are tired and they're so depleted. And then I've heard people when I've shared with people just, what I'm doing, like, oh, I could never give up carbs or that's not sustainable. And the funny thing is it feels so good to me. It's like I was ready. I was a sugar addict. I grew up eating tons of sugar and all these things. Got to adulthood and started to tone that down. But now I don't miss any of it because I'm satiated. I just don't miss it. And I do enjoy what I'm eating. It's not a sacrifice. And if I want to have something else outside of this, I can, but I feel good and I just really want to see how good it can get. I want to build some more muscle mass. I just want to be strong going into my 60s. I want to be one of those 70, 80, 90-year olds that's not hunched over and having trouble walking or being in pain. Um, this carnivore experience really reduces inflammation, a lot of people report, and I'm certainly experiencing that too. The other reason I was motivated to shift my food was I have had some congestion, like a tickle in my throat and a little bit of a cough, and it's been going off and on for years. And it did a little ways in to getting rid of certain foods and upping my fat and protein stop. Then it's kind of come back. So I'm playing around with some different things and might need to go off dairy, which I don't really want to. So I haven't embarked on that. So again, I'm just sharing my experience. And I think it's so important when we listen to other people, and it can include specialists and things like that, that, you know, they have their training, they know what they know. I have my experience, I know what I know about me, and it is not a one size fits all. And I think we are meant to look at the whole big picture. So, a holistic approach, looking at what's going on in our physical body, what are we feeding our body and nourishing our body with, what's going on in our mind, our thoughts, and then our emotions, and then who are we spiritually? Do we have any practices that help us really connect more deeply within to go beyond the mind? Because the mind is what we're thinking and believing. And then that becomes our truth, and that's not necessarily a problem. But if we're really feeling like lack of confidence and lots of anxiety and fear and worry, um, that is part of this experience where we've got parts of us that are believing these things that are not our actual truth, but they've come to be true. And we can shift any pattern that we feel we've been, that's been running, that we may not even realize. And I love to help people get some space from that and look at it. And I love to help people go connect with their heart through heart coherence. And we can connect with all of these aspects of our human experience when we know that that's an option and that it could be helpful. So if any of this sounds appealing to you, please feel free to comment, ask questions, reach out if you want to connect one on one. You know, Feel free to comment and share about your experience. We all are in it together in this human experience. We're not alone. And it really does help not only ourselves, but everyone when we do share. Thank you so much.